All right, everybody, welcome back to another Total Annihilation replay. Today we've got Gasplant playing. We have Tiptushi in the bottom corner and Venom in the top left. This is an excellent game here. Tiptushi was I believe he's Finnish, and he was an excellent player. Generally, all around really good building, really good understanding of the game, excellent at controlling his units. On the top left, we have Venom, one of the best players during his era. And sadly, most of the time when I was actually playing, Venom didn't play too much. He did come on and do a lot of flaming, which was always highly entertaining. However, he is always excellent at the game, had a good understanding of it. So it's good to get to watch him play here. So you can see here, Venom opens up. He's capped 2 of his metal extractors, whereas Tip has gone ahead and capped 3. So that's going to give Tip a little bit of edge in the economy, but you can see that's going to give Venom an advantage in units a little bit earlier. You can see Tip is still wandering around, building his wins. Venom's already working on his factory. And now Tiptushi lays down that frame. The Gasplant plane was all about controlling the territory. It's a very flash-heavy map. These gas bags make it difficult to amass Samsons. That and the fact that there are little bumps on the ground, which can intercept some of the missiles fired by Samsons. You can see Venom here. He's dropping down a missile tower, and just in case Tip has sent out an early Jeffy raid, Tip does the same thing. Venom's got a Jeffy on his way out. Now, they don't drive that fast normally. It's just I've got the game speed cranked up right here. You can see how that gas bag catches fire and then explodes. When it explodes, it will do damage to anything that's around it. Tip sending his flashes to control the territory. You can see here Venom has actually put out some extra construction vehicles compared to Tip in the beginning, indicating that he is planning on doing a little bit more building. Now Tip will attempt to destroy those and use that to control the territory. Venom sees these flashes coming in on the radar, so he drives his con as far and fast away as he can. Sees the flashes coming in. You can see he moves to intercept right here. You can see how that gas bag blew up and took that flash with it. Tip gets unlucky there, drives his flash into Venom's con, loses those flashes. Tip spots this construction vehicle right here, and he comes in, he tries to take it out. You see how Venom's dropping these Dragon's Teeth. He's trying to block and protect his construction vehicle. And Tip gets it. That's a big deal for Tip right there. Good. You have Tip staying aggressive right here. Venom's going to go down. He's trying to control some territory. Tip sees it sees it coming in, so he starts to run his construction vehicles away, although it looks like Venom finds that construction vehicle. Oh, maybe. Oh, there he goes. Venom finds it. See how it just blew up right there and didn't leave a wreck? That's because Tip knew that it was lost and believed that Venom would secure that territory. He didn't want to leave excess metal for him lying down, so he actually self-destructed it. Tip returning the favor from the early degunning. You can see Tip is on his second factory at this point, using his commander to expand. Venom's got his second one going too, using his commander to produce units. Venom's at plus 15 mental. Tip's at 9.5. Actually, no, Tip's a little bit higher, but he's actually stalling on energy. So when you run out of energy, your metal extractors stop for a little bit. Nice job by Venom there to tag that construction vehicle. Little factory there by Tip. Venom coming in for a raid. Gets a metal extractor, but doesn't get much else there. Nice job by Venom there, knowing that Tip's flashes are further up north. He knows he can come in here and raid this down south. Gets a construction vehicle. Tags those mexes as well. So that was a nice little run by Venom, although you can see he leaves all these wrecks lying around. That's going to be Tips to reclaim. I know when I was playing Gasplant playing as core, it was tough to keep up metal production and expand because of the power of the flashes, but if people kept sending them into me, then that would leave me plenty of metal on my doorstep to reclaim and break out with. Venom's using those excess construction vehicles he has. He's down south building. Trying to get a nice little missile tower defense set up. Missile towers, good range, but not a ton of damage. Making them good for general all-around defense, and when you have forests of them, they actually can stop attacks, but for the most part, they just slow things down. Nice little unit control by Venom here, going after that con. Don't know if he'll get it, though. Tip comes crashing down in here on the south, drives Venom off of those metal extractors. There's two cons here. You can see if you leave construction vehicles alone, eventually they build these little forests of missile towers, and they really can control territory. Tip seeing them, looks like he goes and he grabs all his flashes, and he intends to break through right there. Grouping up down south. He's got his commander guarding out more vehicles there. So he's got 1 plant, 2 plants, 3. Venom's 2. And there he goes. Tip comes in. See how as Venom running, he's throwing out those nanoframes, trying to keep the construction vehicle alive, but it drops. The second one drops as well. That's nice job by Tip. Venom, seeing the flashes over there, he goes in for his own little raid. Tip's responding over here. You can see how even though they're both kind of all over the place with their units, the map is kind of being divided neatly down the middle. The only exception here is Venom hasn't been able to really secure his corner. These are nice little +2 metal extractors, so that's a decent amount of metal, whereas Tip's got his capped. Right now, Tip is about 25 metal to Venom's 20. So Tip is in the lead. Reflected, even by the number of units at this point. Using the superior range of the missile towers to kind of harass. Now, Tip is starting to build his geothermal power plants, and usually in PA, what you do with those is once you get them going, then you can build 4 metal makers, and it's going to give you +4 metal. Usually the winds are going to be enough to run your factories, and so you're building the geothermals to just kind of boost your resource production. Tip just checking the waters, testing the waters here. So now this looks like on the mini-map that Venom's got a lot here, but you can see there's only just a small amount of missile towers. Venom comes crashing in down here. Tip drops a con. See, he sends his flashes out front. This is a nice little job by Venom right here, drawing Tip up into the range of his own missile towers and missile support. So that's really good by Venom there. This is leaving a nice little wreck field that these construction vehicles are going to be able to take care of. Venom notices that that's taking damage. And at that point, Tip sees how soft Venom is at this point. He knows all his flashes are down south. He goes ahead and crashes his flashes in on the top side, completely wiping him out. Venom's commander's there, drives Tip back. And this is one of the things I love about TA, is you get these games where there's just crazy stuff going on both sides of the map. Tip breaking through on the top, and Venom pushing Tip back on the bottom. You can see how Venom's got his construction vehicle out. Go ahead and he's cleaning up those wrecks worth about 85 each. But yeah, they are worth 85 each. So Tip is still in control of the majority of his metal extractors, and he's really just fighting on territory that would otherwise be considered Venom's at this point. Doing a great job of staying aggressive and keeping Venom pushed back. Tip sees another con. Nice little nano blocking by Venom there. I don't know if it'll be enough. And it is. Wreck field is mostly under Venom's control at this point. See how he's building that little dragon's tooth just to keep his construction vehicle safe from the flash that's attacking it. Tip's got 3 of his geothermals up. Venom doesn't have any capped on either side, and it looks like he's only recently taken over his medical extractors on the south. And Venom's just making hay out of this wreck field. Right now, Tip's lead is about 3,000 metal. So even though he's got all his stuff capped, the fact that Venom has been able to survive by reclaiming these wrecks has really kept him in the game. Venom's starting to turn those wrecks into additional factories so he can kind of continue to fight with Tip on the unit production point. Let's see here, Tiptushi's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those factories on this side. Venom just now has matched him in that. Oh, his commander just dropped another one. He's making those metal makers, turn that additional resource production from his geothermals into metal. And you see, normally when I'm commenting on these games, I talk about metal as being the resource that gives one person an advantage or another. That's generally the case. Every now and then energy will come into play, something that's incredibly important. But in TA, it's something you need to build, it's something you need to manage. But a lot of times it can be an afterthought on games like this where it's generally abundant because of the high wind. Venom pushing in on the north side, noticing that Tiptushi is actually a little soft up here. Tip, seeing that Venom is crashing through on the north, decides he wants to crash through on the south. This is really great. So you can see who's actually going to go further here. Venom's got a smaller force, but Tip has less defense. And Venom crashes through there and starts taking out his metal extractors. Tiptushi does the same thing on the south side. Comes through, takes out some metal extractors. Venom's going for a comm kill right here. Even though Tip has plenty of energy, he doesn't realize what's going on. There you go. See how we've got this nice slash drawn across the map there as the result of that attack. That's one of the things when you're playing the game, if you feel like you're generally even with the other person, if you say they've got units in the south and you've got units in the north, you know that their stuff isn't up there and that you're going to have the advantage if you just press it and be aggressive. Tip drives his flashes down south to meet him. Venom's continuing to build up his energy at this point. You can see he's got these medical makers down, Tip does. This is where Venom's starting to get aggressive. You can see just this blob, though, as it comes across, that Tip simply just has more units at this point, more production. And that's what that metal lead translates into. You see by Venom's comment, he really feels like he's on his back foot by Tip's production. Tip's recapped some of these, but not all. And Venom has recapped some, but not all, of his metal extractors down south. This wreck field, for the most part, is still Venom's. Well, you can see Tiptushi, he's hooked. He's building these rows of missile towers towards Venom in an attempt to control the territory. The nice thing about missile towers, again, being their long range, even though they have the low damage, is the fact that they don't take a lot of time to actually do their job. You don't need to micromanage them to get them to be incredibly useful. Battle rages on front in that little traffic jam. Tip's got all 4 geos capped there, and Venom is just starting to build his first geo in the top left. Again, Tip's income is higher from the ground, but Venom continues to reclaim his construction vehicles. Venom probably notices at this point he's building these lines of missile towers in. Tons more flashes from Tiptushi. He's really cranking out those vehicle plants. Really committed to the ground game. Little missile tower battle up here. All while Tip continues to drive in from the south. You can see Tip's being a little clever here, building up these dragon seats, protect his con. I'm just going to drop that construction vehicle. Tip's turned his attention north here. Actually, it looks like he comes to regroups. Spoke too soon. Venom's got another geo going up down there. Actually, it looks like he's trying to get ahead of Tip on geos. And this is just where all that production of Tip has come in. He's driving in. I really like that decision right there to kind of turn things north rather than the south. And he breaks into that point. You can see how Tip, he's marking things that he's seeing, different factories. That gives him a little space for his rows of missile towers. Now, I think it'd be more important for Tip to hop off of that and start doing a little bit of reclaiming, clean up that mess. While Venom continues to be really aggressive with the reclaiming of this wreck field down here. All the while, they both continue to expand their economy, winds, and geothermals. Venom's got 5 of his up. Tip's got 5 of his up, so they finally even that score. To stop the missile tower creep, Venom's dropping a Guardian, but Tip takes care of that using his flashes. Venom goes ahead and he starts another one. Alright. Whenever you're watching the game, it gives you a commander, so that way you can, you really just join it. So you can type in commands if you need to. See the battle rages here. Venom's really building that Guardian. Generally, I don't like to build those, but in Venom's situation, seems like it might be a good idea, because that missile tower creep is really starting to work. You can see how he's really encroaching on the territory, making it hard for Venom to reclaim all those messes that he intends to. You can even see here up north how he's radar targeting and taking out some of Venom's missile towers, encroaching in on his territory. So you can see how at this point the map's kind of divided neatly down the middle. You see no man's land right in the middle. Tip tries breaking through again. You can see how he's just got the unit advantage. Now Venom, you can see here, he's gone advanced, puts up that advanced radar, so he can actually see a lot more than Tip can now. And it's like he's planning on trying to go that route. That's going to give Tip the advantage. That you can see he's pressing it home, driving through, doing damage, taking out the metal extractors. Oh, actually, yeah, he's cleaned him off of those. So it looks like Venom's plan is to go defensive and pork up, whereas Tip, all out offense. More and more flashes. Now it looks like Tip decided he was going to build a Guardian to try and break through here, but since his flashes were generally successful, it looks like he felt like he didn't need to do that. Now, what on earth is going on over here, you might be wondering? That right there is Venom, who's building a Big Bertha, and he's building it behind a gas bag to make it difficult to see. You can see, though, those cost over 5,000 metal. So Tip's going to have that over 5,000 advantage, and if he puts it all into units, he's going to have that advantage on the ground. Tip sees that the Guardian's up, he marks it, and that Guardian has been shelling and pushing him back. And I'm desperately trying to defend it at this point. Brings his flash down to defend it. You can see how he just starts shooting using his radar targeting with the Guardian. And Venom's first Big Bertha is up. Tip has gone air. Looks like he's thinking maybe he wants to go Hawks, some kind of game ender. And Venom opens fire by taking out one of Tip's Geos. Now Tip knows that sound, that distinct sound of a Big Bertha shell hitting, so he knows that Venom has got something big up. Knowing that, he tries to press that advantage. He knows that Venom sunk a lot of metal into that. Drives up into Venom's comm. Just comes plowing through. Marks the factories, and right here, you see there, that's the Big Bertha that's hidden. Notice how Tip marked all these other things, but he didn't mark that Big Bertha. His flashes just drove right by it. He didn't see it. That's really unfortunate for Tip, because he had the flashes there that could have taken it out. Venom flies the scouts in, and you might notice that, okay, it doesn't look like Venom's actually marking a lot. Instead of actually marking, he has his Big Bertha selected, and he just clicks on everything that he wants to destroy. Eventually, single shot at a time, he's going to try and wear Tip down, taking out important targets like resources and factories. Tip mashes his flashes up north this time. Now Venom, for his part, you notice it doesn't look like he's attacking very much. All he really has to do is defend that Big Bertha and keep it alive, and eventually, he should be able to whittle Tip down. Scouts marks all those factories. At the same time, he's also targeted him with his Big Bertha, and this is what Venom's hoping to do so he can slow down Tip's massive unit production. It looks like Tip has turned a lot of these off, so he could get his advanced air done. You can see how his creeping missile tower strategy is kind of working, where he's able to drive in, and then also gives him thick anti-air, so when he goes into scout, he doesn't get to see all that much. Although that one actually gets away from him. Doesn't have any anti-air in the back. Venom goes ahead and he targets the geothermals. Bertha's still up, still firing away. And it looks like right here, he's got a second one up. He's building a third. Building a fourth. So Venom's fully committed to Big Bertha's at this point. Really wants to slow down Tip's production. See how the factories are getting destroyed? Tip's just driving in. He's just really committed to units. Looks like Tiptushi's building brawlers. Usually those are used for commander assassination. Now you can see right here, Tip has found that. Big Bertha takes it out. See, it doesn't take too many flashes to take down a Big Bertha once you drive on top of it. Unfortunately for Tip, even though he got one, there's another one firing at him from up north. The metal production is about even at this point. You can see how Tip's just continually pressing in. He's got Venom off of these metal extractors that generally would be considered Venoms. He's got him off these. The map, Venom's really just collapsed into the back half of the map here. Even though he's under Big Bertha fire, Tiptushi continues the attack. Takes out a vehicle plane. Tip built his own Guardian. Used it to take out Venoms. Another Bertha's up. Tip marks that one. And this is one of the things I'm curious why he decides he wants to go for brawlers rather than building bombers to handle the Big Berthas, but that's what he decided he wanted to do. Unless he's planning on going for the comm assassination, which is something that I heartily approve of. Tip's rebuilt his geos in the south. Venom's got all his geothermals operating. Now it looks like Tip's around 40, Venom's around plus 40 to Tip's plus 60. It's just a really intense game. Like, the fact that Venom is holding on here with very little defense, very little units, because of Tip's just relentless onslaught. But you can see Venom slowing him down by just taking out those factories. The Tip's just got the resource to put him right back up. It's going to be whether or not these Berthas can keep up with Tip's building power, and if Tip can take him out. Venom has very little defense left in the south, just a handful of flashes. But for what it's worth, Venom's gotten all his factories. You can see each and every single one of these little wrecks right here is a destroyed factory. Might be wondering what on earth happened to Tiptushi's Guardian that he had in the middle. Berthas make quick work of Guardians. Another Big Bertha's up. Another Big Bertha up. 4 Big Berthas now. Seeing that Tip's actually pressing in with missile towers, Venom decides to try and drive him back a little bit. It says the added effect of training the Big Berthas, the more veterancy they get, as in the more kills they get, the better they actually become, and the better shots they become. It's unfortunate by Tip right there, he gets his flashes jammed up. He could have driven right in and taken out all those geothermals. As it stands, it looks like, he still might get him. You can see Venom's down here paying attention to it. There Tip goes, taking that unit advantage and pressing it. Takes out a geothermal. Nice thing about doing these things where you hook the missile towers towards the enemy too, doesn't take a lot of attention to keep that going. So there you go, Tip blew him off the 2 of the geothermals down there. You can see how all that metal invested into Big Berthas has caused Venom to cede the territory right here. You can see how that line has shifted to the left. Flying more scouts over. Venom's got to keep those factories down. Another Big Bertha's up. And this does not look good for Tip right now. There's just so much so much shelling that's going on that he's going to have trouble keeping anything up, regardless of his resource production. See, as he's building these factories, but he's not had the time to come back and get them working again. There he goes. He gets those going. More factories back in the corner of his base. The fact that they're in the corner means it's going to take longer for those flashes to get to the front. But I'm desperately building flashes, trying to keep Tip out as he presses in. A lot of metal that Tip is lying back there. Venom's got these wind farms going, and so that's how he's able to keep up in metal production at this point. Tip's got his going as well. Building an advanced lab. Tip's breaking through in through the south again. Spots another Big Bertha. Spots two more. See how there's those Y's there? That means Tip uses Y as his marker key. Because you have to hold it down as you're marking. But there's just so much shelling, I don't know what Tip can do at this point. You can see how he's, Tip, again, using this missile tower creep thing, he's creeped right back in. Push Venom off of that territory and claimed it for himself. More Big Berthas. And here come the brawlers. Takes out one. Takes out two. Doesn't get the third. Venom's not happy about that. That'll give Tip a little bit of breathing room, but not nearly as much as he needs. Venom's struggling so much to keep himself in this fight with the onslaught that even though he's got missile towers in range of his con, he hasn't shot him yet on his radar. Venom spotted the advanced air plant, takes it out with the Big Berthas. You can see how once the Venom finds things, you see how the Big Bertha trains itself. Single salvo takes it out. And again, Tip's got a lot of resource right now, but he just can't keep his factories up. There's just too much shelling going on. You know, and maybe Tip was planning on using the brawlers for a calm assassination attempt, but he figured he needed to take out some of those Berthas when he had the opportunity. Venom's going Samsons. I think that's a good call at this point. Take a little less time controlling. Venom using his Big Berthas to push back the missile towers. Tip's putting out Farks to help him get the air up sooner. Doesn't seem to matter how many Berthas Venom puts up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Berthas, 7. Tip continues just to build under this shelling. A lot of people would have quit at this point, but he's being really tenacious. You can see how this is helping Venom out. He doesn't have to pay as much attention to these Samsons, yet he's still able to control the flashes coming in. Just got advanced vehicle plant up. Not sure why, but figured he needed to spend some resource somehow. Loses another air plant. And this, as you can see, even though Tip has all this resource production, he just doesn't have factories up and running to turn that into the ground units. There's the onslaught from Venom, the porking up and building Berthas seems to have paid off. Venom scouts again. Tip continues to build missile towers. Part of the reason, too, is he wants to have them as air defense against those scouts that come in. Tip start to build his own Big Bertha down here. Venom going after Tip's economy. This is where you can see having this many Big Berthas. This is basically like having a Vulcan or a Buzzsaw up at this point. It doesn't even matter if they're mildly inaccurate. There's just so many coming in. Just shelling everything in sight. You can see how Tip's broken down up here up north with his defenses. Bertha's just continuing to shell. He's even using it as defense there, shelling, taking out those flashes before they can come in. Venom doesn't have the defense to handle that force, but Tip was assembling it and he didn't send it in time. Venom scouts. Takes out the advanced lab. You can see, there you go, Venom flies in. He sees his Bertha. Tip gets one shot off. Keeps nano blocking with the metal storage. He tries to keep it alive by repairing it. It gets taken out. There's just too much firepower. More scouts come flying in. Tip's finally building bombers to try and take out those Big Berthas, but at this point, I just don't think there's anything he can do against that much shelling power. I love the tenacity, though. His Bertha shots just come streaming in. Again, using his Big Berthas in a defensive capacity. And now you can see how Venom's shelling of the anti-air defense is coming out in his favor. He's got a scout that managed to survive all the way, flying all the way through. Tip's commander is rebuilding. Once again, Venom seeks to clear out his geothermals. Well, really just clean up everything. Just look at all those Bertha shells coming in. Finally, Venom attacks for what has to be the first time in almost an hour of gameplay. Well, maybe a little less. But Venom is able to send some flashes in through the weakened missile defenses of Tiptushi. You can see Venom scouts are just fine. Venom doesn't see the comm there. And you can see Tip brings his comm down. He's going to try and degun some of these incoming attackers. Venom's going to hear that sound too. You see, I've got it down to normal game speed right now. See, the game actually moves a little bit slower than I've been showing. Here comes Venom's scouts, sees Tiptushi's commanders, targets with the Big Berthas. Here come the shots. Salvo comes in. Venom says good game. He's locked onto the commander at this point. Hits him with the Big Bertha. And that is game over.
Victory.
That was an excellent game. Back and forth. You can kind of see how that strategy of Venom's being on his back foot, building the heavy-duty artillery, And Tip didn't give up when that first shot come in. The first shot came in. He didn't give up when the second Bertha was up, the third Bertha was up, the fourth was up. He just kept driving and pushing into Venom's territory, and I really like that that attack. He was really committed to the ground game. Eventually, though, Venom managed to hold on, but by what felt like just a string, to be able to break that one out. And then once he finally got control of Tip's production using his Berthas, he was able to turn that game around. So excellent game. Thanks so much for Venom for sending this one in, and we'll catch you all next time. Take care. Bye bye.